What's up guys, Duke Sloth here, and today I'll talk about the elephant in the room. The current state of hunters. I'll go into some specific hunters later on, but first up I want to do a little discussion about hunter items. In my opinion, most hunters, not all of them, are fairly balanced as long as it comes to their kit only. There's some thought behind that. They have clear, they have some kind of boxing ability. I think too many of them have hard CC and escapes, but that's just me. Now, first up, let's consider what a hunter is supposed to be. In other MOBAs, the hunter is usually called ADC, AD carry. And what he does is he builds up power throughout the game. You start very weak. You have a support to help you in lane, and then he gradually climbs up. As an example, I'll name Ashe in League of Legends. I don't know how well she does at the moment, but she used to be a character that gets strong, incredibly strong later on, but she needed that build-up time to get her items to become scary. Now, this used to be the same in Smite. The hunter used to be babysit by the support quite a lot, by the guardian quite a lot, and he just took his time to build up the power, but was very strong late game with a lot of penetration, and you didn't want to mess with a hunter late game. With the latest shifts, this has changed, and this brings some issues with it in my opinion that I like to address now. First up, we saw the removal of the blue buff from the duo lane in Season 2. The decision was to add in an attack speed buff, so the clear is less ability focused and more auto attack focused. Somehow that didn't work out that well. Iris decided to add in Bluestone Pendant. Now Bluestone Pendant, I wish I could show you something about it, but Bluestone Pendant gives you a massive amount of mana regeneration. And you can see where the problem comes in. The Hunter clear is still the same. Clearing is still about hammering out your abilities mostly, having the better abilities to clear, not so much about auto attacks, precision, or delays. Freezing a lane is a little more rewarding, but not that much with the leech range changed again. After that, hunters had quite a few struggles because they needed to build up an item. Hunters usually build stacks. There's the exception of Bloodforge hunters, which you might see sometimes. That's a very rare thing. So, usually they'd go for Devourer's Gauntlet, or maybe, if it was older, even Transcendence. Transcendence is kind of out of the game for now because Bluestone took its place for the mana regen. There's no need for mana regen anymore on any hunter on top of Bluestone. So, we had Death Gaunts only for quite a while, and it was the only viable build that was there. Now Death Gaunts got a little nerf. It takes a little longer to stack. And to be honest, I think that is fair. It gives the hunter a longer build-up time, which makes him more of a late game carry than he used to be, really. Problem is, the price of Heartseeker was dropped. So we're talking about this item now. Heartseeker is extremely cheap. Other items in this game cost around twice as much as it does. Heartseeker allows you to build stacks extremely early. It gives you a ton of power. In fact, Heartseeker is so strong that hunters can basically outclear anyone early, even in solo lane by now, if they play safe until they actually get some stacks, which is not very hard to do, because in solo lane you can buy Heartseeker 2 right away, get the blue buff, clear a few waves, go back to base and get Heartseeker before the enemy can get any counter item online. Heartseeker struggles from the issue that you lose stacks when you die. But how much of an issue is that? When you think about the fact that a hunter at higher levels can clear a whole wave immediately or with an additional shot per minion, you get 6 stacks right away. Minion waves come in fairly fast. You can even clear a jungle camp in between and get 3 extra stacks. And if you die, you only lose half of the stacks. Meaning, you're still at 25 stacks. So you get 1 jungle camp, you get 1 wave, and you're already 9 stacks up. So you're at 34. Then you get another wave, and you're at 40 again. So you're nearly at 50. And 40 stacks is enough to dish out damage with the thing. It's worth it at that point, by far. And you'll get those extra stacks eventually. So, to really punish a hunter stacking Heartseeker, you have to constantly gank him. You have to take him down basically every second wave or so Heartseeker becomes not rewarding at all. Or you have to focus in teamfights every single time. Now, the problem with ganking a hunter that builds Heartseeker is that this hunter, as long as you don't have Heartseeker yourself, like say you're an assassin in the jungle and you have Heartseeker, some of them can afford to go for that, but not many, you'll just lose the boxing fight. You have to have roughly the same amount of stacks. So you completely rely on your lane mate, or the one that's on the lane, in order to get a successful gank. You cannot gank on your own anymore. And even then, it's a very risky choice. A gank requires good coordination. So I'd say it's a chance of about 50-50 of actually getting something rewarding out of ganking a Heartseeker hunter, while it's a lot more rewarding to gank any other lane, where the enemy is just a lot more prone to attacks. At the same time, there's no downside for the hunter. There's no risk in stacking Heartseeker, even if there should be. You know you could lose stacks, but it's very, very unlikely, and they're stacked up quickly. So why would you care about that when you get such a power spike out of it that you can just take anyone down? So I personally think that Heartseeker has become a huge problem in the current meta. And other items add to this. Arcee on its own is too strong in my opinion. People would still build Arcee if it was an item that didn't have that passive. Because it's just extremely strong with the lifesteal, attack speed, and penetration. It's all the stats that Heartseeker doesn't offer. And in combination, these items are so extremely strong, and they can just basically wreck anyone in early. Therefore, hunters are no longer weak in early. Now we got other things. You could go Defgons, you go the old route, and then you go H-Veil. H-Veil allows you to steal physical power from your target. And this is originally supposed to be against hunters. But again, it makes it harder for anyone to gank you, simply because you take away their power and add it to your own, making you even scarier. A very aggressive hunter might actually consider not even going for Arcee, but instead going for a Heartseeker H-Veil combo, just so you can't gank him and he can just keep up his stacks. Then, the only thing that in the hunter's kit, the only items that really are in a good state, in my opinion, are these 3. You won't see Hasten Fatalis too often. I put it in because it works on some characters in conjunction with Heartseeker and Arcee. But you'll see it sometimes, and then you got Warrior Tabi and Ninja Tabi. It's rewarding to buy any of those items. They all have different upsides and downsides, and are good on different characters, so these items are, in my opinion, balanced. But other than that, every single part that follows after is a standard build that works the same for every hunter. We got Executioner, which shreds protection, and it's based on the number of protections that character has at the moment, not the starting protections. So this is extremely strong no matter what point of the game, because you take away so much protection that it will always be a massive chunk of damage no matter what kind of enemy you're going against. In combination with crit, it even works against Guardians. The Executioner is way too cheap for what it offers, in my opinion, and I don't see why it works different from other items. Attack speed reducing items, like Midgardian Mail, don't take attack speed off the attack speed the character currently has, they take it off the base attack speed. So, this means that for example, a 2.0 attack speed hunter would not lose half of his attack speed and go to 1.0 if you had 50% attack speed reduction. Instead, it would just be 50% of the base attack speed, which would be a lot less. Why does Executioner not have that mechanic? Or otherwise, why don't the attack speed reduce some items use the same mechanic as Executioner? It just doesn't make much sense, because the percentage is calculated differently when it comes to attack speed, giving them a major advantage, because you need a ton of items to counter a single item here. And then we got the crit items. And in crit, in Smite, crit works so different. There's no real RNG. There's an RNG, but you can kind of avoid the RNG by going into rage, because you get an basically nearly assured chance to get a crit at some point. So there's also no risk in building crit. It's not much of a gamble, because you know the crit will be there eventually. It might take longer or not, and it might not be worth it every single time. But as soon as you get some crit online, it works. And at this point, hunters are, depending on the build, building up to 3 crit items. And I'll just add this up. We got 30% here. We got another 20% here. And we got another 20% here. So we end up at 70% crit without the rage passive. So it would take you 3 shots at max to get to 100% crit chance. Then take a hunter like Artemis who gets even more crit. Sure, you can't always build this. If you go Heartseeker and you got Asi and boots, then you kind of have to sell something. Probably Asi and don't have lifesteal anymore or so. But it's not that bad, considering what you get for it. And most games are over before this even happens. So just to sum this up, you got Heartseeker that's way too strong. You got Asi and Ichway that are very, very, very strong. You got Executioner that is too strong. And you got 3 crit items with RNG that just doesn't work the way it should and makes it extremely strong as well. And all this is damage that doesn't require you to do much. And this is where the problem comes in. You're not an ability-based character as a hunter. You're, as the joke goes, a left mouse button holding guy. Because of that, there's no equal skill level between somebody who tries to fight you and you playing as a hunter. I've been cheesy lately. I've started playing hunters because I'm fed up with playing against hunters not being able to do what I'm supposed to do. They are counter gods to hunters. They're counter gods that should be able to take them down with ease. For example, Vamana. Vamana should be able, he's built around physical protection all the way. He should be the ideal counter to hunter. And he is if you get into late game and you build full physical protection. But then you get shredded by the mages, but that's another thing. The thing is, go on solo lane against a Neith. I make this a challenge. Go on a solo lane against a Neith that plays worse than you. Not much worse, but a little bit worse than you. And you will see that you won't lose your lane, but you will also not win it. And you will be punished for every mistake you made. You will probably have to get teleport, because otherwise you go out of lane for a second and Neith will be able to take your tower. You try to box her and you might succeed, but she will just heal up, and if you make a tiny mistake you won't be able to heal up in time and die, because the only heal you have is your ult. But you're supposed to be an ADC counter god. Or Nemesis. Everybody always mentions Nemesis. Did you realize that Nemesis takes ages to come online? Even with the new attack speed builds, she just doesn't come online before a hunter with Heartseeker. A hunter with Heartseeker will have so much damage at the point that she tries to gank that Nemesis probably even doesn't even have shield on level 3 yet. So she can't reflect much of the damage, and she'll take chunks of damage before she gets to the target, or the target will escape as soon as he gets there if she rolls a dash or something, and then eventually she'll take auto attack damage again before getting to the target, and she's not that much stronger as a melee character boxing. That just sucks for her. And this happens for so many characters that the pool for junglers, for mid laners, for solo laners especially, because it's always hunters now, is becoming extremely limited. And I wanted to point out Neith as a special example here, because Neith used to be a very, well, she was looked down upon. But she has become so strong lately because of the items that benefit her kit so much, because she doesn't need heal. She has that in her kit. She has an excellent clear. She has double clear actually. She has that heal, she has an escape, and she has a global ult, so even if you dominate her in lane, she can still get stacks and get the farm throughout via using her ultimate. And that's not balanced. There is no downside. If you want to have balance in a game, then every decision you make has to have an upside and a downside. There has to be a risk to it, and it has to be equally worth to go both ways. It's not equally worth to go both ways on hunters in any situation. Theoretically, it should be worth building Jotun's Wrath. It's an ability-focused item with some damage, with some penetration, with some extra mana cooldown reduction. So, Nice as a hunter is fairly ability-based, and theoretically it should be worth going into Jotun's Wrath. And it's not. You won't find a single Neith building Jotun's Wrath, because it's outside of this build. It doesn't make sense in the current meta. People say just think outside of the box and build something else. But it's not how it works with these items in place. Because the only thing that where you can change around is either Arthi and Itchvale, or one of your movement speed items. And that's about it. And you need some kind of attack speed steroid or lifesteal, you need some kind of pen, you need some kind of movement speed, so there's not much room there. You could go without movement speed and run around with sprint all the time, but what is that gonna do? Other than wasting an active slot and not being safe anyways. So hereby I conclude that in their current states, hunters are just not balanced, and what should be looked at more than anything else is the items. I'm all for changing up crit, I'm all for changing up rage. I think Executioner should at least see a price increase, because I'm fed up with actually building it on so many gods that used to build Kins just because X is better now. Asi and H-Whale should be looked at, and most importantly, Heartseeker should be looked at. I know this video was very opinionated, and a lot of you might just be like, oh yeah, you're just jumping on that train right now, and everyone had that opinion already, and whatever, you're just repeating what they said. But I thought it needed to be made a bit more clear as to why hunters are so extremely strong and what's so bothersome about them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this fairly long, in-depth discussion. Feel free to discuss this topic. I'll reply to every comment on this video relating this topic, because I feel like this should be talked about. Thank you guys for watching. Maybe feel free to leave a like, leave a sub. Otherwise, if you don't feel like it, I don't mind. It's a sloth life after all. Duke Sloth, out.